Hi, everyone. I'm Cliff Neve, Vice President of Maritime Cyber for Mad Security. I'm here with a vlog on early adopters on the Coast Guard final rule on cyber and the marine transportation system. Some organizations are already moving forward on Coast Guard cyber compliance, and they're learning fast. So today, I want to share what we're seeing from these early adopters, what they're doing right, what's surprising them, and what they do differently if they had to start again. I'm not talking about the required training piece that most of you have been required to have in place in January. That's an important step, make no mistake about it, but it's only the tip of the iceberg, and now it's time to roll up your sleeves because July 2027 will be here before you know it. What's interesting about those who are moving forward is it's not necessarily the organizations you might expect. It's not the biggest or the most resourced. In fact, some of those are very bogged down in bureaucracy and internal politics and trying to figure out who's actually in charge. It's the ones who are willing to start that are carrying the mantle. So today I want to share what we're seeing from them. The first thing that they did right, they established clear ownership. Then they went about things in a risk-based operational prioritization. And third of all, they brought in external expertise to accelerate their path forward. First, clear ownership, not a committee, not spread across departments, one person responsible for moving things forward. Yes, that individual needs to be a relentless collaborator. They need to be somebody reaching out to operations. They need to be somebody who's reaching out to the C-suite and legal and everybody else on the team involved, as a C-suite type person should. And that's what the CISO does as the single point of accountability. They're responsible for keeping things moving, for bringing the right people to the table to keep that vision in place, to make sure that the entire company is represented, but they are solely responsible and they accept ownership of it. Assignment of a cybersecurity officer, or CISO, is not quote unquote required until 2027. But frankly, I have no idea how you're going to get other things done by committee without having that individual established. That simply hasn't worked in the past and it won't work in the future. Second, they focus on business and operational risk, not IT risk, the real business risk that should, but normally is not integrated into an organization's risk management portfolio because the leadership of the organization sees cyber risk as a technical thing. It's not, it's an operational thing. And the more you dig into it, the more you realize how critical cybersecurity is to an organization's operations and mission. These folks are asking what actually matters to operations. Where could we take a hit? What systems do we need to bring up first should we have some type of catastrophic failure? They prioritize them from there. They don't try to boil the ocean. They start with what's actually important and go from there. Third, they bring in outsized expertise early, not because they think they can't do it themselves. And if you think about it, if they can do it themselves, why haven't they? Your internal staffs already have work that they're responsible for. Bringing in an expert that has seen this across multiple organizations can help you avoid learning the hard way. Speed and accuracy matter more than figuring it out through trial and error. Bring someone in who can help you early so that it's not a fire drill in the summer of 27. Use your peer groups to share information. A rising tide raises all boats. Competitors don't always need to be competitors. And on this, a lot of folks can learn and establish small teams that can accelerate growth for the good of the team and all those who are involved. Now, this is where things get interesting. There are a few things that consistently catch organizations off guard as they start down their path in meeting these requirements. The biggest one, OT visibility. Most folks think that they understand their environment. A lot of folks, as it turns out, don't actually leave their office. So until you try to map things and until you get up and walk around and look at all the systems that are out there and start to consider those systems that you might not have considered being connected or might not considered having a cyber nexus. Those things that you can't see, you need to get out of your chair and go see them. You need to talk to the operators and talk to your teams and see what it is you're missing. You need to deploy security operations tools so that you can find things that show up logically that you might not know are there in the first place because they're hidden in a rack someplace. When folks start to look, they find unknown devices, unmanaged systems, no monitoring, or systems, new systems that are out of the purview of what is currently being monitored. And that gap shows up very quickly once you start shedding a light into those spaces. Second, incident response and actual readiness for business continuity. A lot of folks do have plans on paper. Folks do have their facility security plans. They do have their cyber annexes or their cybersecurity plans. But a lot of folks haven't exercised these. And if they have, they haven't exercised them outside of the IT group. When you start asking what happens in the first hour, who's making the decisions, that's where the gaps are. I led an exercise recently where one of the engineers stated very confidently that they would not pay ransom should they have a ransomware attack. I said, so you're making that decision for the company? His boss quickly jumped in and said, no, he isn't. I said, okay, so you're making that decision. They replied, no, that's not my level either. So this became a huge learning opportunity and a huge gap uncovered. And fortunately, it was covered during this exercise, which is where they're supposed to be uncovered. Then we were able to see, hey, okay, who should be making that? We need to have a discussion with the C-suite. Is it going to be the CFO? Is it going to be the CEO? Is it going to be legal? Can we have predefined actions? And in an emergency, they don't always happen 8 to 5 Central Time. A lot of times having those predefined actions will eliminate the friction that is necessary to actually get you back to resilience and getting your systems back up and running. Third, vendor dependencies. A lot of critical systems are owned or supported by third parties. Those who have ships as part of their portfolio, they know this. There's a ton of legacy systems out there where the only people who can fix them or are able to fix them are the vendors. That means you don't fully control those systems. You don't fully have visibility over them. That complicates both security and compliance. And you need to work with those third-party vendors and understand what happens on a bad day. If this system goes down, what is the service level agreement for restoring it? Can it be done remotely over a remote connection? Should it have a remote connection? All those questions are things that have to be determined before a bad day happens. If you ask early adopters what they'd change, the answers are pretty consistent. They would get a SOC capability sooner so they could gain visibility and establish the footprint of what normal looks like right off the bat. Because visibility takes time, and figuring out what traffic patterns look like so that you can find anomalies is important. Without it, you're making decisions in the dark. They'd also bring in operations earlier. This isn't just an IT problem. If ops isn't involved, things slow down or fail. Or the fun one, you get to redo what you've done because operations rejects it. They simply will bypass it and come up with other ways that are less secure to get around your controls. So you have to engage operations right off the bat. Tell them the why. Have them understand, and they should understand the why because it's their system's failure that their success depends on. And finally, they would test their systems and plans earlier. I recommend having a good facilitator to facilitate these plans. A lot of times when things are internal, they're not taken with the proper focus. Things are missed. But the first comprehensive exercise is going to reveal a lot of gaps. The second will still reveal a significant number of gaps. Don't learn your gaps from a real world scenario. Exercise it, get your gaps, close them, exercise it again, close them even more. That way, when a real world event happens, you'll have fewer gaps and you'll have less friction to getting back to normal operations, or at least an operational capability that sustains your company's missions. And so if you simplify things down, start early, it reduces stress later in a big way, and probably cost as well. Bring in an expert, use your peer groups, talk to experts in the industry. Security operations provides visibility and normalization. It's an absolute must. If you have what your systems look like today and what your architecture looks like today, it's probably not going to be the same a week from now. It's definitely not going to be the same a year from now. Having visibility and normalization over what normal looks like is going to help with your maturity and help you identify problems early on. Focus on practical wins, not perfect documentation. Yes, your documentation does need to be there. And as you get your wins and as you determine uh, changes and improvements in your policies and processes, you need to document those and have those available and take credit for those. As you do your exercises, as you do your drills, you need to record those. A lot of times we'll just do them and we bring in a Teams call so that the entire drill or exercise is recorded and you can have a transcript of it and you can go back and review it. And that's ground truth over what happened and also helps you to document to an auditor the fact that you have done it, that you've taken it seriously. And finally, understand that cyber maturity is iterative. It evolves over time. This is a journey. Thanks very much for your time, and please reach out to me if you have any questions at cliff@madsecurity.com. Thank you very much.